Rob, we've laid out all of the hits, runs, and errors for the past 12 months. We can all remember that bottoming happening out on Christmas Eve, of course, in hindsight. Take us through what's been the most significant development in markets in 2019 in your mind as we take stock of this past year.
Well, hey, good morning, Dom. And yes, it's certainly been a great year. I think probably the most significant change has been the so-called Fed pivot. You know, as we entered this year, the Fed was still in rate hike mode, and quickly the Fed shifted to rate cut mode and cut rates 3 times. So I think really that has obviously generated a lot of positive momentum for equities. At the same time, if some people might say that that's been the only reason equities have done well this year, and I disagree with that. I think earnings have been solid, not great, but solid. So there are some good underpinnings to equities right now. But the Fed pivot certainly, in my mind, the big reason why we've had such a good year.
All right. So if the Fed was that critical, why is it that the markets, even before that fourth quarter of last year, continued to head higher, despite the fact that the Fed had raised interest rates multiple times over the course of the past couple of years?
Well, I think part of that is the fact that the expectation for earnings growth were still pretty good at the end of 2018. And so we did get some positive momentum related to that, because at the end of the day, in the long run, you know, equity price performance, equity price growth is going to follow earnings growth. Now, 2019 was you know, a decent year for earnings, not great. But that still did not, the fact that it wasn't a great year for earnings didn't cause the equity markets to drop significantly.
All right, so my job is to lay out what happened from a historical news perspective. Your job, Rob, is the harder one, is to tell us what's going to happen in 2020, because that's what you get paid to do. So what is going to happen in 2020? What are the predominant themes that will play out? Should I still be invested in the market, and if so, where?
Yeah, Dom, I still like stocks here going into 2020. And of course, a lot of clients are saying, but Rob, we've seen such a run up. But, you know, back to earnings again and PE ratios, you know, stocks really aren't wildly overvalued here. And earnings growth should pick up and reaccelerate next year. I mentioned kind of the tepid earnings year we had this year. Well, that creates a low bar for earnings next year. So I like stocks. As far as kind of macro sectors, you know, even though the Fed's on a pause, I think their next move probably will be down. So that probably will bring the dollar, or, you know, be a force to move the dollar down, which should help large cap multinationals. So I'd overweight big cap growth stocks here. For U.S. investors, I'd also overweight the international space. And if you like, we can kind of break down the S&P sectors I like and don't like.
I wish we had the time. I always do, Rob, but we're running out of it. But I thank you very much for all of those thoughts.